The whole aim of this series is to ignite and embolden questions and conversations. It is an exploration of how you could be engaged in your work so that work itself can be a reward and not simply a way to rewards. One of the tragedies about human beings is the way they will set a kind of civil war going inside themselves, a kind of inner Bosnia, and set their creative and artistic and imaginative worlds against their need to make a living, to make the car payments, to run an efficient business. And my experience is we don't get to choose between those two things. That the life of the imagination is the source of inspiration that sets all our projects out in the world going, and that actually gives them meaning. And when you lose sight of that central imaginative way of being in the world, you're in trouble. And I remember once being on my way to Chicago, having lost sight of that imaginative world, where I couldn't see what I was doing anymore, and I was going to give a talk in Chicago in one of these large glass and steel structures in downtown there, flying from Seattle, and grumbling my way to Chicago, wondering what I was doing. In a way I'd forgotten, I suppose. I was kind of I suppose I was in a kind of amnesia about what I was about. And I was wondering why I was burning up all these jet fuel. Who were these people I was going to speak to? What did I have to say that was real? And I found myself in a very negative downward spiral, and caught myself in time and said, what's the image, David, here inside you and outside you that will make sense of this story? And I was sat in the plane by the window, and I just closed my eyes for a moment, and the image that came to me was one that's very precious to me, which is of these holy wells in the west of Ireland, and they're places of great healing. And I remembered creeping up on one at night and looking into it and seeing the stars reflected in the well, and the stars were really blue, I remember, when I'd looked into that well at night. And there was a feeling of immediate repose. Well, didn't I just open my eyes after that, and I looked out of the window, and what did I see but the lights, the blue lights of O'Hare Airport on the runway beneath me. And I had this immediate sense that here I was dropping into my own well, in a sense, that this life I had made for myself of speaking to people about issues that were really important to me was my own blessed well, in a way, and I was dropping into it. It just took the form of O'Hare Airport at this point. And so sure enough, I went, through the jetway, through the airport, into the taxi cab, downtown Chicago, gave my talk, and there was this moment in the talk where I looked across and I saw this man by the window with, which was reflecting only the fluorescent light above him. And the man was looking at me with his mouth open, and we were probably about 45 minutes into the talk, and I could tell that the poetry had brought to memory something inside him that was incredibly important, because he was looking like a child almost at me, and he was remembering something he'd forgotten many years before. And I looked at that man and I said to myself, this is why I came, and this is the poem which commemorates that memory in a way, and that realization of what I was about. It's called The Well of Stars. Blue lights on the runway like stars on the surface of a well into which I fall each night from the sky, emerging through the tunnel door of the jetway and the black waters of the night in the cities of America. in the lit rooms of glass and steel, in the still and secret towers, under the true stars hid by cloud, and the steam-shrouded roofs of the mansions of money and hope, I come with my quiet voice and my insistence and my stories, and out of that second and deeper well I see those other blue stars and that other darkness, closer even than the night outside, the one we refuse to mention, the darkness we know so well inside everyone. I have a few griefs and joys I can call my own, but through accident it seems a steadfast faith in each of them, and that is what I will say matters when the story ends, but it takes a little while to get there, all the unburdening and the laying down and the willingness to really tire of yourself, and then the way the poets through time generously gave themselves to us, walking like pilgrims through doubt, combining their fear, their fierceness and their faith. And you now in the front of the room, beneath the fluorescent light, by the reflected window, hiding all the stars you have forgotten, one more member of the prison population whose eyes have caught the open gate at last. You are the one for whom the gift was made. Keep that look in your eyes, and you'll gladly grow tired of your reflection, all this way in the great cloud race between here and Seattle, just to look beneath your face, there for all to see the well of stars and the great night from which you were born. There for all to see the well of stars and the great night from which you were born. So there's that slightly disturbing line in the Well of Stars poem, which is one more member of the prison population whose eyes have caught the open gate at last. This is actually myself quoting myself, where I was asked in a radio interview what the experience was of going into many of these companies around the country. And before I could think at all, out of my mouth popped the answer, well, sometimes it's marvelous and sometimes it's like visiting the prison population. And when I say that, I don't feel like companies and corporations are necessarily prisons, but quite often we will make a prison of them in the way we actually choose to work in them. So the lines, one more member of the prison population whose eyes have caught the open gate at last. One more member of the prison population whose eyes have caught the open gate at last. Is our work a way of forgetting? You know, has it become a way of forgetting about what we're really about? Is it a way of forgetting about the magnificence of creation? Is it a way of keeping ourselves busy so you're not facing up to perhaps difficult gateways of grief you might have to get through to go to your happiness? Or is it actually a gateway to something larger? And these are the questions I feel we need to ask. We need to hold our work up in the light of the fierceness of those questions about whether they are actually contributing to whether the work is actually contributing to our happiness or not. And of course, in order to create some freedom for yourself around that happiness, monetary remuneration might not have to be your first priority in that area. And you say, well, that's all very well for me, but then what about my 15-year-old son who's expecting his next pair of inline skates, you know? Or what about the whole feeling I have in my house of abundance around money, which people are continuing to expect? What I say then is that we have some conversations to have with our loved ones about expectations about how much money I am supposed to bring into this house to keep everything going. And perhaps I have to have a conversation with my son that goes something like, you know, I've been telling you the wrong thing. Even though I haven't been saying it out aloud, I've been telling you that if I just give you enough in the way of worldly goods, you will be happy. And I've really been wrong in doing that because it's not true. And I've suddenly realized it myself in a way I'd never realized it before. And I need some freedom in my life, and I need not to be on this hamster wheel where I'm going out and having to bring home the bacon so much all the time that I don't have even a little degree of freedom in my work life to speak out courageously. Because how much courage can I have in the workplace if I am mortgaged up to my neck? If I would only have to take a month off work and the whole financial edifice would come crashing down. And it's astonishing how many people and how many couples and how many families live like that today in the United States, you know, with the constant bombardment of advertising and the incentive to buy and the pictures of families, you know, in sitcoms and things on the television where there's so much abundance around and so little worry about how you'll actually get the wherewithal to bring the money in those fictitious scenes, you know. There actually comes into people's hearts a feeling that there's something wrong with them if they can't provide in the way they see provision being made on the billboards or in television or in the movies, you know. And so you actually feel there's something wrong with you, and you start exchanging your sense of freedom for this ability to deliver the goods. It's life and creation almost as a kind of 800 catalogue number that you would call up. And there's tremendous payment for this, and it comes in the sense of being imprisoned. To me, freedom has to do with the ability of the unknown inside you to grow into something you wouldn't recognize yourself. Freedom has to do with your ability to walk into a landscape which you can discover for yourself, and you could be brought alive by that discovery. One more member of the prison population whose eyes have caught the open gate at last. You are the one for whom the gift was made.